With less than 10 days to go, 5 presidential candidates are at risk of not making the stage for the first Republican debate. They haven't met the party's polling or donor criteria, and that includes former Texas Congressman Will Hurd, whose participation may likely already have been doomed because he refused to sign the party's loyalty pledge, primarily over concerns about former President Trump, whom he believes is running simply to stay out of jail. Will Hurd joins me now. Congressman, it's good to have you here. 8 candidates have met the criteria to participate in the first debate. That is, if they all decide to show up. As I said, you and 4 others have not. What are the chances you're on that stage, do you think, and how?
Well, I feel pretty good. We only have one more polling criteria to hit, and we're very close to hitting the 40,000 mark for the donor threshold. So I feel good. We're going to hit those before the deadline. And when it comes to the pledge, Donald Trump hasn't even agreed to sign the pledge. So we want to make sure we hit those requirements and force this conversation with the RNC. And if your viewers want to help make sure that conversation is had, go to hurdforamerica.com, donate at least $1, help me get on the debate stage.
So let's say you do make that debate stage, and obviously it's a very different dynamic if Donald Trump is there or not. It's a very different dynamic if he decides to counter-program. But let's just take your strategy, because your strategy has been to say why Donald Trump would not be a good candidate. It's a similar strategy that we have seen from a couple of other people, Chris Christie and Asa Hutchinson. It hasn't had a real impact in the polls. So do you believe the debate stage is a place where someone could, for lack of a better phrase, break out and maybe really challenge Donald Trump?
Look, the debate stage is one step. It's one thing in this process. Does anybody remember how many debates they were in 2016? But yeah, somebody can break out. But ultimately, what this election is about, and we have 26 weeks before voting starts, you got to have a candidate who's not afraid of Donald Trump, who's not willing to kiss his butt or lick his boots, but someone also articulating a vision for the future. And yes, I'm not going to question that Donald Trump is the presumptive leader right now. A lot can happen in the next 26 weeks. And I would also say that we should have learned back in 2016 about polling. Polling is a snapshot in time. Running for president is not one election. It's actually 57. And things change and tighten the closer you get to the election. But here's what I've learned. When I've been crisscrossing the country and in places like New Hampshire, people want to talk about how they put food on the table, a roof over their head, and make sure the people they love are healthy, happy, and safe. That's where people, not everybody is doom scrolling on social media. Not everybody is consuming cable news. And so those that are able to make that connection with those voters who are sick and tired of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden is going to see success in January.
The New York Times reports that the Trump campaign believes, and we've certainly seen this with our reporting, that the mounting indictments are good for him. What they write is, quote, Mr. Trump and his team have deliberately sought to maximize live news coverage of his criminal arraignments. They treat court appearances exactly as they would campaign events, choreographing visuals down to the minute details and working with all the networks, including those Mr. Trump has pilloried as fake news, such as CNN. Is there any indication, though, Congressman, that Team Trump is wrong in their belief that his legal struggles against all odds are a positive rather than a negative? And how do you fight that then?
Look, when it comes to his core support, they're going to support him no matter what, right? And I appreciate folks like you that's giving a dark horse candidate like me an opportunity to articulate a vision. But here is why the case in Georgia, I think, is even more damning. We've all heard the phone call about him trying to get a state official to do something that he knew and that the Secretary of State knew was illegal. And this is something that even if Donald Trump somehow wins the GOP nomination and wins in November, which I think has absolutely no chance of him winning in November, then he can't pardon himself. So this is probably the most dangerous case for him. But I would also warn people that you just had John Kasich on. You had this vote in Ohio last week. Before that vote, everybody thought that that piece of legislation that was a proxy for abortion and the life issue was narrowly going to pass, and it got beat by almost 18 points. And so the disconnect between those that actually care about these issues versus those who respond to polling, I always got to remind folks about this. But yes, his supporters are going to support this. But who is that Democrat or that independent that voted for Joe Biden in 2020 and then is going to vote for Donald Trump in 2024 based on all this baggage? Here's what we do know. Either vote Donald Trump twice are recognizing that these mounting court cases is baggage. The fact that $3 out of every $4 Donald Trump raises go into his legal fees. The fact that hardworking Americans are funding his legal fee when all he had to do stop this nonsense. This is one of the reasons why I keep saying that Donald Trump is running for president, not to make America great again, but in order to stay out of prison.
And you mentioned issues, so let me give you an opportunity to talk about an issue that is on everybody's mind today, and that is climate change. We're seeing what's happening in Hawaii. Your friends, family, I'm sure, have felt what has happened in your state, from Texas to California to Florida to the Midwest, with the fires in Canada, changing air quality. Catastrophic extreme weather has been dominating the news throughout this summer. I know that you've acknowledged the danger posed by climate change, but what, as president, would you do about it? Because if people check your record, they will see that you voted against any number of climate measures.
Well, first and foremost, to the folks that are living in Maui right now and having to deal with this disaster, the federal government, our states also need to be helping in any way possible to help folks there. And unfortunately, Chris, this is not going to be the last tragedy that we probably see for the rest of the summer or going into the fall. The rising temperatures of the seas and this dome of weather across many parts of our country is going to see some pretty terrible events going forward. What you can envision for a Hurd administration when it comes to preventing climate change is making sure that we're focused on industry to make America the producers of clean energy and exporting that to many parts of the world. We can prevent climate change and improve our economy at the same time. And part of this is going to require our national labs working on some of the technologies in order to get CO2 out of the air, making sure we're doing carbon capture when it comes to existing ways of producing electricity. And then also we got to figure out some way to integrate nuclear a little bit better in a regulatory regime to provide the electricity needs that we need here in the United States. But we should be exporting clean energy and tools to do clean energy. Unfortunately, 90% of the solar panels and wind turbines that are used in those sources of energy production come from China and not from the U.S. That's something that should change.
Will Hurd, thank you for coming on the program. We will look to see if you make the debate stage. Good luck to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.